basics in creating a Google form. I'm going to navigate to my drive. You can also go straight to Forms from your app launcher. It's the little purple icon, but I'm within my drive and I'm going to make a new Google form. Google Forms are usually used to send out a survey or maybe to have people sign up for something, but there's lots of other uses for them too. A lot of times teachers also might use a form to create a little quiz for the class. So I have created a blank form. You can add the title here or in the box up there, but if you add the title here, it will go in both places. Alright, you have a place where you can add your form description, and then this is where you create your questions. So it has already kind of automatically created for me my first question. You can choose different question types over here. I tend to most often use multiple choice, paragraph, or short answer. Sometimes check boxes if you want people to be able to select multiple things. You may also like to be able to use the date option. But there are lots of different options here for you to create all different types of questions. Google Forms is pretty good at guessing what kind of question you're creating. For example, if my first question is going to be name, it's going to automatically assume that I want this to be a short answer question, which I do. If you want something to be required, you have to choose this little required box right here. That will require that someone answer a question before they can move on. So alternatively, if it's an optional question, you would want to make sure that you leave the required turned off. You can also add images into your questions if you would like. This is the button to add a new question. Let's make this one a yes or no so I can kind of explain how to move people to different sections of your form based off what their answer is. Let's do kind of a silly question. It's going to give me some suggestions here. So I do want to do yes or no. Okay, now let's say let's make it a required question. And let's say I want to send my audience to a different question depending on what their answer is. Here's how you do that. So before I show you how to do that, let's create the two sections that I want to have as options. All right. So now I have section 2 of my form. Let's make this for the people who said yes. I'm going to add another question within this section. And then maybe I want them to be able to select multiple things here, so we'll do check boxes. And then I'm going to make a third section for those who said no. Okay, now let's go back up to where we asked the yes or no question. So I'm going to click the 3 little dots or the ellipsis down at the bottom, and I'm going to choose Go to Section based on answer. So I want the people who chose yes to go to this section 2 that asked them about their favorite toppings. So I'm going to leave it here, continue to the next section because that is the next section. But if they said no, I want it to jump them down here to tell me which type of dessert they would prefer. So I'm going to click and I'm going to choose to go to section 3 next. Okay, so now that's going to send the no's to section 3. And since this is the last question on my survey, after they answered this question, those people will just be able to submit the survey. However, notice right here my my audience who chose yes and were sent to section 2, after they choose their favorite toppings, it says that after section 2 they're going to continue to the next section. So right now it's set where it's going to send them down here to this section 3, and I don't want them to continue to that section. So it's important that I select the drop down here and indicate that after they answer section 2, they can submit the form. I'll go over these other options before we move to responses and settings. So here you can import a question from a previous form that you created. You can choose to add in an additional title and description if you need it. You can add in an image, you can add a video, and then as we saw before, that's the option to add a new section, which you'll use a lot, especially if you want to send people to different sections of the survey based on their answers. We'll do responses last. First, let's do settings. If I'm ready to send this survey out, I want to make sure the settings are all organized the way I want. So in responses, I'm going to click that drop down. Do I want to collect email addresses? No, not for this one. You can send a copy of the responses to your responders if you want. You can allow people to go back in and edit their response. We'll allow that. And then down here, similarly to when you're setting up share settings, this is going to kind of restrict who can actually access and take the survey. I want this to be available outside of MCBOE, so I'm going to uncheck that. And then this is how many responses that people can submit, and I only want them to submit one. The presentation will kind of allow you to set up some different features and how the survey looks to others. I definitely don't want to shuffle my question order, especially because I have my responders going to certain sections based off what they are going to answer. The progress bar will show them how far along they are in the survey, so you can use that if you'd like. The confirmation message, if you click edit, you can it's the default message just says your response has been recorded, but if you want it to say something different, you can change that. I'm not going to show the link to submit another response. You can set if you want your responders to be able to see the results, but if you don't want them to be able to see what other people said, then you would not want to turn that on. Those are the basic settings that you'll need. Also, just so you know, up here you can customize the way your survey looks, so you can change the color, or you can choose an image for a header. Let's go and see if we can find an ice cream one, since that's what we're talking about. Oh, what do you know? There we go. And it's going to kind of generate for you different options for how for your form color based off the theme of the picture. Let's change our title to Okay, now if you're working with someone else on a form, you can also add them as a collaborator. To do that, you're going to click the ellipsis up here, and you can choose to add collaborators just the same way that you would with a doc or a slide. You can email them directly, or you can share the link with them. I can click here to preview what my survey is going to look like before I send it out. When I am ready to send, I'm going to click the button here, and it's going to show me some different ways that I can send this form out. I can email it directly, so if I want to choose a particular group of people to email, I can do it that way. I usually use a link. So if you click on that link option, you can just copy the link and then you'll be able to share that link with others to access the survey. You can also get the embed code if you would like to be able to embed the survey on a website or something like that. But now that I have the link copied, let's go ahead and take the survey quickly so that I can show you what the responses will look like. Alright, and down here, I do like ice cream, but I'm going to click no, just so you guys can see the feature that we used to send the responder to a different section based off their answer. So I'm going to click no and click next. And notice it took me to this section. What type of dessert do you prefer? And submit. If I want to go back and edit my response, I have the option there to go back and edit it. Okay, so now when I'm back in my form, I can see that I have one responder. If I click on responses, I can see a summary of all of my responses. And the more you have, the more data you'll have available to you in the summary. Or I can individually go through everyone who has responded to see their individual results. You can also click here and Google will automatically create for you a spreadsheet of all of the responses that you received.